Hello Everhouse, I'm Bart Kuykens and this is my house in Antwerp. I grew up here from the day I was born until I was 18 years old, and then I moved to the big city Antwerp, which was back then in my eyes a big city, but it's a small, comfortable, cozy city. My father died almost 10 years ago. My mother decided to move to a smaller apartment, and then I decided to buy the house from her. This part of the house was not there when I bought it from my mom. I decided to build a garage at first, but then I wanted to spend more and more time in the garage with the car. So I decided to put a sofa there and then a little bit of music. So now it evolved a little bit. It transformed to a garage / space where I can relax, where I can read a book, where I can be creative. The sun comes up on that side, and then in the evening I have the sunset on the other side. The light comes in beautiful. And then I sit here with a cup of coffee, I take my time, I read a book, I listen to music, and I try to let go. Basically, it's my space. Not that the kids don't come here, but they like to stay in the living room and play the PlayStation. And this is a space where I can do whatever I want to do. It's nice to be back in my city where I belong, I think, because I still am this guy from this small little village. It inspires me because it has this calmness. Because most of the time I travel to big cities, there's a lot of stress going on. There's a lot of good energy as well going on in those cities, but it's absorbing a lot of energy from you. So it's always good to come back, reset yourself, and then move on to the next project where I have to travel again, and then come back here and take my time and spend time with the kids, of course. I feel safe here. Another extension of the house was the swimming pool, which I had to think about for a while because, of course, it's not something you decide overnight. But eventually we did, during COVID. I think that's a time for everybody where they think about a lot of stuff. But we decided to go for the swimming pool, and I think it's the best decision I made for the house and for the family. I just love it when I'm working here and I see my kids having fun. This is memories for them and memories for me as well. In terms of furniture, it's a little bit in the same line as my photography. You can buy new stuff every day, and yes, they make good stuff, absolutely, but I think there's so much stuff from the 60s and the 70s which is timeless, which is beautiful, which is not always cheap, but it keeps the value. I like the fact that I'm sitting in a chair which belongs to other people, so it has a soul. It has been, I don't know, with an architect or a musician or interesting people, and that for me is a big value, to reuse it, to make sure it works, it blends in nicely together. The dining table is for me an iconic table because it has a beautiful base. It's called the Tulip table. It's designed by Saarinen. I have it with the 4 Casala chairs. It's for me an interesting piece, and I love the design of the chairs. I love the design of the table. A round table adds something to family life when you eat. It's much more intimate than a rectangle table for me. Behind the dining table we have this custom-made rack that I made, and it's from steel, so over the years it's starting to rust, which is this natural patina, which I really like. And the steel has a very good contrast with the other things here. Yeah, I like to collect things that I like. Everybody's collecting something. My office is obviously my favorite space during the day. But in the evening, I go to the living room where the Togos are. It's really the place where the family comes together, because the kids like to sit in the Togos to play with the iPad. I wanted to sell them, but it doesn't make sense because they're so nice, they're so timeless. You can play around with them. You can do different configurations very fast because you just throw them around. It's not static, you know? It's not like it has to be here for the rest of your life. No, you play around with it. It's like a family piece. It's not only about the design and the quality of seating, it's also, it adds something to your family life. And one of the first pictures that I took for my book, which is from a 356 that I photographed in Brussels, it's basically my very first print. Back then decided to print on metal in a steel frame, and I put it outside for, I think it was outside for almost 2 years. So now it has this natural rust over the years, which is the same process that I went through the car. And it has this rust, which is really different. I started photography 10 years ago. I'm not saying it's because of my father, But he was always interested in photography as well. Of course, shooting analog photography back then. Yeah, he always told me that the Hasselblad was the camera to have. His iconic camera, of course. Couldn't afford it, but he was interested in it. And then I started learning photography from friends, and I was able to go in and see them taking pictures and develop them, and I started to intrigue by the magic of developing your own pictures, you know. There's a lot of trial and error, and it becomes interesting because you come in different cities and you start to see different things, because in your own city you don't see anything because it's so normal for you. But then when you go to LA or New York, everything looks interesting. I like the vibe of shooting analog. For me, it has something timeless. It slows you down because it's slow photography. You really have to think, you have to focus to take a picture. And I really like the process. And then I started shooting the Porsches. Nobody really documented the Porsche scene the way I thought I should document it, in an analog way, black and white, the design, the shape, the lines, the essence of what it is. And it took me 8 years to make this series of books, which was a beautiful journey. I can't say it was always an easy journey because you're on the road alone for a long time. But in the end, I'm proud of it. And I always told myself, I don't want to build an empire, but I want to build a legacy for my kids later, that they can go back and say, okay, my father did this book, so he is a passionate guy for photography. And that's what I want to give to my kids as a message. Another benefit of photographing these cars is that you meet a lot of interesting people as well. And from there I went to the portraits. Yeah, because over the year, you shoot Jay Leno, you shoot JK from Jamiroquai, you shoot Patrick Dempsey, Paloma Picasso. So yeah, you're there anyway, so you take a portrait and then in the end you end up with a portrait book. People always ask me, how the hell did you get to Jay Leno? I was photographing Bruce Meyer in LA, and he asked me, is there anybody else you want to shoot? I would love to shoot Jay Leno, of course. He put the phone on speaker. So we have this guy here and he wants to shoot Jay Leno. I gave my number and then that's it. And a couple of days later, I'm on the highway sitting in traffic jam in LA, of course. And the phone goes, hello. And he said, hello, son. It's Jay Leno. I said, hi, Jay, how are you? And he said, you want to shoot me? I said, what about Thursday, 10? So yeah, fine. He said, you know where it is? I said, of course. I had no clue where it was. I was was a little bit shocked and overwhelmed. He was really calling. Super nice guy. I was lucky he had a little bit of time. So I photographed him and it was really nice. It's always one thing connects you or brings you to another thing. If you sit in the sofa here, nobody is gonna knock your door. And for sure not Jay Leno. You have to go for it. Go and connect the dots, talk to people and be nice and work hard, because that's the bottom line of everything. You have to work very hard to eventually become what you think you can reach.
Subscribe to the Everhouse channel by clicking on the logo to receive updates on our latest episodes. If you have a project we could feature, get in touch with us at everhouse.co.